Hi, and welcome to Plugged In, this special edition of Plugged In, where we will talk about COVID-19 and Conway and Central Arkansas's response in three key areas: health, education, and finances. We'll begin with health when we visit with Matt Troup. He is the CEO and president of Conway Regional Health System, and we'll visit with him next on Conway Corp. Welcome back to this special edition of Plugged In. We are joined by Matt Troup. Matt is the president and CEO of Conway Regional Health System.
Thanks for having me.
So, Matt, Conway Regional had one of the earliest drive-through screening testing sites for COVID-19. The physical space, was it altered to create the unit? And how is the unit staffed? And or how are you maintaining the supply of these PPEs that we've all learned so much about?
Sure. Well, when you start to talk about COVID and sort of our hospital response, just from a physical, asset perspective, there's really two things that I could touch upon. One is the isolation unit itself, which is a unit that's dedicated to caring for these patients and any patients that we suspect may have COVID. And then the other is our screening and testing capabilities. So these are brand new sort of functions. We've always had the ability to care for patients who've had some sort of contagious disease or something where we've needed to take extra precautions on, such as tuberculosis, for example, but never on this kind of scale and never with multiple patients. So let me first talk about our screening and testing side. When we talk about screening and testing, we're really talking about two very distinct things. One, the screening is really an interview where a clinician, usually a nurse or a nurse practitioner, asks you questions about your signs and your symptoms and some basic questions around travel and exposure, that kind of thing. To date, we've had that screening center up, for about 4 weeks now. So that center gets about 50 to 60, sometimes more calls per day, and has been open since 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then on Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and then 8 hours on Saturdays and Sundays. Once people go through that screening process, we can then schedule them for a test if in fact they meet criteria. And that testing center, we basically shut down our west entrance. Not basically, we have shut down our west entrance so that patients can just drive up under the portiche. Someone will come out in full PPE gear and shove a swab up their nose. So to date, we've done over 800 tests and screened probably, and I actually wanted to get the number of this before our call today, but wasn't able to get it. I would say we screened probably well over 2,000 people, just as sort of a gut feel. We felt it important that in a time of a pandemic, when anxiety is high, people want answers, they want information, and we want to be able to provide that for them locally. A lot of physician clinics, frankly, didn't want patients that had the virus to come in to their clinic, primarily because of risk of exposure. PPE is in short supply, so they were very cognizant of their PPE supply. So if they just wanted to get a test or felt like a patient of theirs needed to get a test, we were a good resource for them to get that test. So we felt it important to be a community-based provider of care to do that.
As we're still in the midst of this crisis, what should the community continue to pay attention to with themselves and with their family members? And what should they do if symptoms occur?
When answering this question, it sounds so basic for me to repeat, and I know we've heard it all, but washing your hands frequently, maintaining and respecting social distancing, and if you don't have to be out and about, don't be. Stay home. Our staff developed really an employee-led campaign called Stay Home Arkansas, We Got This. And you can see it all over social media and our website and other locations. But it really is to encourage people to stay home. That really is the number one thing that we can do. And for something that seems so complex as a virus and a pandemic and all of its ramifications, really the basics are really what's most important at a time like this. For those developing signs and symptoms, the first and foremost thing you need to do is stay in contact with your physician. And if you don't have a physician, obviously we have an after-hours clinic. Telehealth has really exploded in Conway and really all across the country. It is now, it's never been as easy as it is today, right now, to get access to a doctor. You can just pull them up on your computer screen, set a virtual appointment, and actually see and talk to that clinician. So if you get signs and symptoms, certainly reach out to your physician, do so quickly. And if he or she deems that you really should be tested, then we have a testing site right here on our campus. It is, we set up an appointment. They're in 10-minute increments, and you don't even have to get out of your car. We'll come out to you, we'll collect the sample, and away we'll go. The most important thing I think I could tell you and tell anyone who's listening is that the diagnosis, or the treatment, I should say, for this is very similar to the flu. It's very similar to how we should respond if we've got a cold or any other virus. There's hundreds and hundreds of viruses. It is to stay home, quarantine, and not be around out and about. I think that's a huge lesson with this virus and this pandemic, is the importance of isolation when we start to show signs and symptoms of a virus. That's true whether you have the flu. It's true whether you have a cough. It's true regardless whether you have COVID or not. Your request, so the request of your physician, is going to be to go home and isolate.
Now, one area of impact for hospitals are the patients and families who are there to visit loved ones who are there for reasons other than COVID-19. What changes have you made for visitors coming to the hospital?
Yes, so relatively early on in this, we revised our visitor policy and have done so progressively. So when we first started out, we screened visitors and only allowed 2 visitors per patient. We then went to 1, and then ultimately now, and I think it's been this way now for a couple of weeks, you'll have to apologize, my days are running together because the team and I here have worked, about the last month and a half every day straight. But in any event, we're to a no visitor policy, and that really is to prevent anyone bringing a virus into the building. And so we're going to screen every person that walks in this building. And so I don't know if you can see here on the screen, I have a nice little sticker. Every morning I get my temperature checked. I'm asked if I've traveled anywhere, and I always respond only in my dreams because it's not a time to travel. So we screen everyone that comes in, and we've actually turned staff away that have had a spike in fever that could be for any number of reasons. We've actually sent them home just out of precaution. So I say all this to say that this is a very safe time to be in a hospital if you don't have COVID and you still need to be admitted, to still come in. Again, out of an abundance of precaution, we have made masks available for all of our clinical staff. So if you're a nurse that works on a unit, you are to wear a mask, and that's not so much to prevent the nurse from getting sick, although there is that benefit. It really is for that nurse, and studies show that 25% of us may have the virus and are asymptomatic. It's to prevent that nurse from unintentionally spreading that virus. So that mask is going to greatly reduce their likelihood that they are spreading the virus unintentionally. So it is actually a fairly good time to be in the hospital from that perspective. You've got a lot of people paying attention to infection prevention protocol.
Healthcare workers have become heroes of this pandemic. Can you speak to how your team is doing? How has this affected the lives of healthcare workers?
It's hard to answer that question without getting a little bit emotional, just because to see the sacrifice and to see what people have done for others, and the fact that, as I said before, that they would volunteer to work on this unit, that oftentimes when they go home, they are separating themselves from their family. They're sleeping in another room. We've offered any employee who works on that COVID unit, if they don't feel comfortable going home, that we would put them in a hotel. And I think by and large to date, most folks are staying in their RVs. They're staying in their spare bedrooms on the other side of their house, and separating themselves. So just to see that kind of sacrifice over and over again, as a leader here, it just it's an emotional thing for me, and I can't express just appreciation, but it's really not appreciation, because what they do, they don't do for the organization. I think they do for patients, because they love people and they want to care for people, and they feel like that's their calling. And I think if we share anything with those staff, it's our sense of calling. And I think that's pretty cool when, individual values and our organization's values can align to that degree. Everyone is sacrificing here, whether they're getting sent home because our volume is down, or because we've had to, try to fit our cost structure to our new environment. Everyone in this organization pays some price, and it is humbling and so gratifying to see the way in which that happens. It is a blessing. I don't wish COVID on anybody, of course, but I've never been more renewed, more restored in my vocation and my calling than in times like these.
And Matt, the community has rallied support through some very interesting ways. This Park and Pray that's become a great event on Sunday night. So tell us what this means to your team.
Well, for me individually, it's very, very special, and I know my team shares that as well. This is the true story. It was a Sunday. I was home doing yard work, which was very, very therapeutic for this day and age. And I just began to think about the team here, think about patients that were here alone, and thinking how can we show appreciation for the team and for families to be able to reach out to their loved one. And this thought and this idea of somehow creating a circle around the hospital, embracing the hospital, even though we can't do that physically, what are ways in which we can do that? And it just so happened that at that same time, it's the way God works. And the community member, J.R. Runyon, also with 107 radio station, had reached out and said, hey, we want to do this Park and Pray idea. And I thought that's great. Obviously, God talks to you too in other ways. So to be able to be up here and to see such an outpouring of love without having to be physically touching people, to show appreciation, to show that that virus, as much as it drives us apart because of social distancing, can't take away who we are at our heart, can't take away our very spirit and why we want to serve and care for people who are in the hospital and care for people who are there.
Matt, we appreciate your time today. Is there anything you'd like to add that we haven't had a chance to touch on just yet?
No, one thing I would add, or I would emphasize, and it's something we've had conversations on, here internally. COVID is very scary. COVID, it gets a lot of media and a lot of other focus of just how scary and intimidating it is, and how it robs us of everything that's normal. I would encourage people, and we've certainly tried to do this through our social media and the way we communicate, to really look upon what good has come of COVID, and the good that you can see in the way people respond. If you were to go and look at our social media page and look at our internal communication, you would think we were winning, massive awards or achieving new milestones of greatness with the way that we're responding to COVID. And I think it's an opportunity for cultures to shine. I think it's an opportunity for the best of people to shine. And so we've really taken that posture that, as I have said to others, and hopefully Rebecca and Rachel won't fuss at me after this, but we want to kick COVID butt. We're going to lean into this, and you're going to see the best of what we have to offer. And COVID's not going to prevail. What will prevail is our great sense of culture, our great sense of how much we care for each other and for this community. And that will resonate, and that will shine. And that's what needs to get talked about here, is how it's changed us and how we've responded, not how fearful we are of the virus.
Matt, thank you for your time. It's Matt Troup. He is the president and CEO of Conway Regional Health System. Coming up next on our Plugged In special, we visit with Kenneth Barnard. Kenneth is the Chief Financial Officer of First Service Bank. He'll speak to us from his office in Greenbrier about small businesses and what they can do to get help during this time. That's coming up next on Conway Corp.
There's fast. Then there's 1 gig fast. Stream, play, shop, and chat 20 times faster than average broadband with new 1 gig internet powered by Conway Corp.
We're joined by Kenneth Barnard, who is the Chief Financial Officer for First Service Bank today. And we're talking about different aspects of the community, both health and education and finance. And that's where Kenneth is going to come in. And we appreciate you spending some time with us. We're a couple of months, or actually into the second month now of the way the world is. And it's impacted all of us in different ways. And a section of the population that's impacted greatly and really has been from the start have been the small businesses. And so, Kenneth, we wanted to spend some time talking about that today. What kind of programs are available for small business owners?
Thank you, Jeff. First one I would like to mention is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, also called the EIDL loans. And those are provided direct through the Small Business Administration, or SBA. And those are not offered through financial institutions. The EIDL loans, they have a provision where a borrower can receive an emergency advance of $10,000 through that. Again, it's through the SBA Direct. The second program that you hear a lot about is the SBA Express Bridge Loan Program. And this is for amounts up to $25,000. This program is offered through the financial institutions, but backed by SBA. And then third, SBA has a debt relief option, which includes the payment of principal and interest payments to the lending institution that is servicing your SBA loan. And that's for a period of 6 months for all new and existing loans. And then last is the Paycheck Protection Program, also called PPP loans, that are offered through the financial institutions.
Well, let's spend some time talking about that, because I do think that's one that a lot of people have probably heard about it, and it might apply to the most people. Maybe it doesn't, but who can apply to it? What size businesses are we talking about, and how does that work?
So that's a good question. The Paycheck Protection Program, it was part of the Coronavirus Aid and Relief Economic Securities Act, which allocated $350 billion to help small businesses keep workers employed. The Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, it provides funds that are 100% federally guaranteed to cover payroll and other key expenses. These loans may also be forgiven if borrowers maintain or restore their payrolls during the covered period as well.
And so is that a case where the small business owner goes to the financial institution they already have a relationship with?
Yes, so that's the typical route that small businesses are taking is they first go to the financial institution that they've already have a relationship with. All financial institutions are able to participate in the program. That doesn't mean that everyone is participating, but they are able to participate. And different financial institutions have their own process to deal with that.
I know that we're still relatively early into this whole process. Do we have an idea now of how long it takes to go through the application process, and then how quickly the small business owner would actually see the funds?
So you're going to have some individual institution and their processes. But I can speak mostly from First Service Bank perspective, and we've been really taking those applications and processing and underwriting those applications within a 24-hour period once we get a complete application, and moving to fund those loans for complete applications within a 48-hour time frame. But so there's no government mandate on how long that should take, but except that all loans should be funded within a 10 business day period. So
all of our industries are changing as we're dealing with this pandemic. The way that we make videos is changing. The way we're doing this interview is changing. Right. What about in the world of finance? What about this gives you hope? What is seeing it from behind the scenes, the infrastructure of just something this big coming together this fast? Talk about it from from the perspective of the banking industry?
Well, from First Service Bank has seen the financial industry really respond to the small business needs in a record pace. From passing the CARES Act on February 27th to standing up a new government guaranteed loan program in 7 days and taking the first borrower applications on the 7th day. That's really short of a miracle in the financial industry. First Service Bank submitted its first borrower application on that 7th day as well after the law was passed. That coupled with just the responses that we're getting from the community that we've received from business owners, how these funds have been impactful to their business and keeping the doors open, certainly gives us a lot of hope. I will say the banking industry has made overwhelming effort to get behind the new lending programs with little program guidance in an effort to get the money out to the small businesses that need it the most. So it's really, it gives you some hope just seeing the industry and how they've responded so quickly.
How are your employees doing? Is everyone spirits staying high, kind of going with the flow? It feels like we don't have much of a choice right now.
We've adapted a lot of changes in our business with just getting the social distancing, but also with having to respond to the PPP loans and other borrower and customer needs while displacing a lot of our workers. It's been a challenge, but I will say that all of our lenders have really got behind and worked countless hours to make sure that they've met borrower needs and requests. And then on the backside, our processing, our loan operations teams have also worked countless hours getting these loans processed and funded for the small business customers. So,
Kenneth, I guess the last thing is just we've got a lot of information. You've shared a lot today. Where would someone go if they need a little bit more time to kind of digest all of this? Is there a good source of information that you can direct people to?
That's a great question. We constantly get information out. I participate in daily conference calls with other bank officials, industry leaders, SBA officials. Congressman French Hill, Senator Cotton, and Senator Bozeman all participate on these, and the most relative information that we're getting is at the U.S. Treasury website at www.treasury.gov, the Small Business Administration website at sba.gov. So both of those are great current sites to receive ongoing communication about the programs as they evolve.
Well, we appreciate your time today. I know there's a lot of information and taking your time to visit with us, and I hope we can talk again in a little more traditional sense at some point.
Thank you, Jeff. Enjoyed participating today.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Appreciate you very much. Coming up next on our special edition of Plugged In, we visit with Dr. Greg Murry. Dr. Murry, of course, is the superintendent of Conway Public Schools, and we'll visit with him about education and how our kids are being educated and what the seniors of 2020 have to look forward to. That's next on Conway Corp.
There's fast. Then there's 1 gig fast. Stream, play, shop, and chat 20 times faster than average broadband with new 1 gig internet powered by Conway Corp.
We welcome Dr. Greg Murry, superintendent for the Conway Public Schools, with us this afternoon on Plugged In. I say this afternoon. I have to remind myself what day it is. I think that a lot of us are just, it's day, and there was yesterday, and there'll be tomorrow. And the tomorrows are something that we're all looking forward to, Dr. Murry. I know that you and your staff are as well. This has been a year unlike any of us have ever gone through. The rhythms of a school year. You get the spring break, and then you hit that final stretch run, and it's not happening that way. How's your staff doing? The feedback you're receiving from students and parents, and just overall, how are you and the folks that you watch out for?
Jeff, I'll tell you, you are correct. We've never ever seen anything even close to this. It's a once in a lifetime kind of experience, I hope. And we've tried to make adjustments as best we can and deliver instruction, deliver the time together with our kids in a totally different way. Our teachers are responding in a very, very positive, very, very good way, trying to reach out to students in any way that they can and trying to strike that balance between keeping learning going and not putting too much of a burden on our kids and on our parents. Parents are obviously concerned about their child's learning and making sure that they stay on track for their next grade or whatever might be happening next in their life. And so we want to stay in touch with them and try to help them out as best we can. But it's been a challenge for everybody for sure.
And so part of that challenge is just the connectivity. It's the daily interaction that students have with teachers and vice versa. What are some of the ways that your staff have been connecting with the kiddos?
Well, that's very important to stay connected, and because good teaching is built on good relationships, and maintaining relationships means you've got to stay connected. And so teachers have reached out via Zoom and via other technological ways to try to just touch base with them, trying not to necessarily create an environment where there's a 50-minute lecture kind of situation, but just reaching out and touching base with the kids and seeing how they're doing, and email and other electronic means. And and you've seen some caravans of teachers going out through neighborhoods and honking their horns and just trying to greet their kids and stay in touch as best we can.
And the role that parents have obviously changes, and I don't think there's a parent alive that doesn't appreciate teachers more today than we ever have in the past. What kind of advice can you give me? I've got 3 kids in the district, and anybody else that's watching. What can we do to step in and try to fill those gaps that are there now and haven't been in the past?
Well, good parenting knows and understands that there's a certain amount of push and there's a certain amount of pat on the back, and you've got to find the balance between those two. And yes, kids need to be involved, and they don't need to set their books to the side for the rest of the year. But on the other hand, we just need to all just step back and take a deep breath and recognize that we don't expect a parent to fill the void of a teacher. We don't expect them to do everything a teacher should do or teach us or their students everything that a teacher might do.
There's a lot of, for a lot of parents, a lot of families, school provides a lot more than just the educational side of it. And so those things aren't available now. I know the meals have been something that I've seen that has happened a lot. And just the technological side, not everybody has access to everything that a lot of us do. And so how are those needs being addressed?
Jeff, I think it's important to recognize that it's not just learning that's going on here. Kids are still living, and they still need food. And our cafeteria folks have just gone above and beyond in trying to make sure that those kids that have a need for a meal are able to have a meal during the course of these weeks. And we've been passing out boxes of food for the last several weeks. And each week, that number of boxes that we are gathering together is growing. And so we're happy to be able to meet those needs as well. And as you mentioned, some parents have the opportunity and have the wherewithal to be able to provide income or internet access, and also take a laptop of some type, and some don't. And so a week or so ago, our district passed out Chromebooks to parents that were whose child needed a Chromebook to be able to access Apex or access their Google Classroom or whatever it might be, so that we can do the best to keep them caught up. It's been a different way of doing business and a different way of trying to get those Chromebooks out and meals out, but we're doing our best.
Let's talk about a group that I know is very special to you and to all of us, and for those of us who have shared our senior class photos from the class of 1988 and had the embarrassment of posting that on social media. The class of 2020, the stories they're going to have to tell. What do you have for them? And I know that there's resources available as things are really kind of changing daily that they can go to get all their answers.
Right, Jeff. And I think the first thing that every one of us need to do is to empathize with these seniors. They lost a quarter of their senior year, and they lost some pretty significant events there, the prom and awards assemblies and times whenever they're recognized for their 13 years of academic achievement. We're postponing graduation. We're not canceling. We're postponing graduation just because we can't gather in groups yet. But we're trying to help those seniors along. as best we can during these last couple of weeks of their senior year. On our Conway High School website, there is a frequently asked question page for seniors and for their parents to help them understand what they need to know and do over the next couple of weeks in order to finish this semester as strong as possible. Their grades are going to be averaged based on the first 3 quarters of the year. And so, their academic time is concluded. Now it's the time to sum up the year and get those band instruments back, and eventually get up to the school and clean out their locker and get their yearbooks and get their cap and gown and get some more instruction for what's going to happen in graduation. But where they need to go on a regular basis is to the Conway High School website and look at that FAQ. And we're going to put every question that any student might want to know and have answered on that FAQ for them.
The last thing I want to ask you about is obviously a good friend of ours is Heather Kendrick, a former host of one of our shows here on Conway Corp Channel 5, living local years ago, and she's doing great work with the district now. The two of you were on last Wednesday in a Facebook Live, and if I understood what I watched correctly, that wasn't a one and done. You're going to continue to do those? Yes, that's correct, Jeff. We have a Facebook page for the district, of course, and hopefully everybody has joined up with us on that Facebook page. But we'll every Wednesday afternoon, sometime between 3 and 4 o'clock, we'll get on and just provide 5 to 7 minutes worth of information. We're not going to drill deep, Jeff. There's too much information for us to drill too deeply with, but we're going to answer some questions and direct some parents and students along the way. And yes, we're going to try to do that each week throughout the remainder of the semester. Very good. Well, that'll be a great place to check things out, and as well as the website, conwayschools.org, and look at that FAQ. Dr. Murry, thank you for your leadership through all of this. It's new for all of us, and I know, like you were telling me before we got started, you've said I don't know more than and I'm sure all of us could say that. I just don't know. Right. It's been strange territory, but our building principals and other leaders are working hard to provide as much stability as we can. And again, I can't say enough about our teachers and staff going out there and doing the best they can during unusual and difficult circumstances. We certainly appreciate them. Thank you, Dr. Murry. Appreciate your time today. Thank you, Jeff. Take care. Thank you once again to our guests, Dr. Greg Murry, Kenneth Barnard, and Matt Troup, for joining us on this very special edition of Plugged In. Join us on social media to learn more about what Conway Corp is doing. We're posting there regularly, so you can find out what exactly is happening with Conway Corp while we continue to do our part as we are doing business in a new way, like so many businesses are. You can also go to our website. There's a special page there. You can find it very easily on the front page at conwaycorp.com.